You only need to know me. I will be the one.
So I didn't have time to drop this video yesterday or even get started on it. Instead, I spent a fair amount of time fanboying over the awe-inspiring genius of Eiichiro Oda, the historical encyclopedia that is that man's mind, and the story of One Piece, because someone had tagged me in a post on Twitter, and I'll link it below. Also, in case you guys didn't know, I have a Twitter. There's 50,000 of you here now. Thanks for the support. But if you want to talk to me, I respond to just about all comments on Twitter whenever, so yeah, follow me there. Link also below. But speaking to Joy Boy theories in the DMs, I felt like he should go ahead and discuss the mind-blowing reveal as to the origin story of Joy Boy, where the idea came from. First, as only he can, his channel being based on Joy Boy after all. So I want to provide my own take on this while I put another video on pause until the middle of next week. It's a related video, but without further ado, the origin story of Joy Boy, as told by Michael Page and Robert Ingpen in the Encyclopedia of Things That Never Were. Book link in the description box below also, available on Amazon. So, Joy Boy, the West Indian character who personifies the human need to dance, sing, and jubilate. He is a relation of the Lord of the Dancers, who inspires festivals in colder countries, and it seems likely that he traveled to the Caribbean with an early shipment of slaves from West Africa. Joy Boy smiles perpetually at all the foibles, imperfections, and problems of mankind, and cures human troubles by tapping out an irresistible rhythm on his drum. Whoever hears the music of Joy Boy is compelled to dance and sing along until he or she has shaken the black cloak of despair from the shoulders. Some jazz players claim to have captured Joy Boy's rhythms, but their efforts are a pale imitation, it is said, of the dance frenzy which can keep humans dancing until they drop, essentially smiling until they die. So to translate some of what is being said, the story Joy Boy seems to be inspired by is the Atlantic slave trade, an actual historical occurrence. The Transatlantic slave trade, or Euro-American slave trade, involved the transportation by slave traders of various enslaved African people, mainly to the Americas. The slave trade regularly used the triangular trade route and its middle passage and existed from the 16th to the 19th centuries, which is interesting granted there are a few triangles in One Piece of interest. The Florian Triangle based on the legend of the Bermuda Triangle, and the mysterious disappearance of ships and other things. But also the Terai Current, a giant whirlpool that connects the world government's three major facilities, Annie's Lobby, Impel Down, and the former Marine headquarters. Joy Boy is known for smiling, bringing laughter and song and dance wherever he goes, even to those that have faced the darkest despair known to man, human bondage. Some people think now that Bink's sake might relate to this, and so maybe Bink was a person and is related somehow to Joy Boy. Someone mentioned Brook being on the crew to play music, so to spread the joy of song and dance. It's important to point out though that Oda has taken the concept of slavery and expanded beyond the Americas and articulated a beautiful premise that none of us are innocent. No matter what country you travel to, where you're from, there will be some failing of human history, a dark byproduct of human nature. We see this in the One Piece world and our own. It is truly a tale demanding introspection. Moreover, the interesting thing is that this encyclopedia was released around the time of One Piece. I think a few years before One Piece was released in 1998, although some dates I saw listed varied between 1985 and 1987. Not sure when exactly Oda read the encyclopedia, but for reasons I'll soon mention, Luffy eating his devil fruit in chapter 1 and the smiling death of Goldie Roger suggests Eiichiro Oda must have read this encyclopedia within that 10-year time span, or overheard the lore of Joy Boy from somewhere else admittedly. Obviously we can't know exactly where he got the idea from, but without a doubt it has to be this West Indian, Caribbean, or African mythology. This really speaks or spoke to me because some of my family members are from that area. It's really moving when it feels like an author included you in their story. But Joy Boy and the joy, laughter, and yes, even freedom, symbolic or otherwise, that Joy Boy instills in those he visits, should remind you of Luffy, someone who, no matter where he has gone, has brought joy along with him, someone that is for the most part always smiling even when confronted by death. In chapter 1, he had consumed a devil fruit known as the Gomu Gomu no Mi, and consequently we see him with a vibrant smile, thereafter proclaiming how happy he was to have eaten the fruit. Or in another interpretation, I'm even happier now, look. I'll get into this more in the video I have planned next week, but joy doesn't mean a utopia. I don't think that is the story Oda is writing. Rather, it is a tale of the human experience, good and bad. How humans, and in the case of One Piece, living beings overall, have the unique capacity to strive for something greater. The anchor of history is only as heavy as you are weak, only as burdensome as you allow it to be. Your future, your destiny is your own. Despite whatever tragic circumstances might face you, joy can be found in the shadow of your worst fears, light in the darkest of times. We are reminded of this every time a chapter of One Piece drops and Luffy's smile brightens up the page. We are reminded of this whenever Luffy travels somewhere, is able to have fun despite the chaos surrounding him, despite the loss he might endure, and to spread his own irresistible joy to those around him, a quality that compels others to follow and yes, even believe in something more. It is a rare gift that extends maybe to Mihawk's appraisal of Luffy on Marineford, the power to bring friends and even foes to his side, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Luffy, by the end of the story, rallied the world for one final war, either alongside or in place of his father Dragon, for Luffy to share his dream of being the freest man with everyone else. For Luffy is unique in that regard. Aside from Arthur or the Library of Ohara's great theory about one final party Luffy might plan to have at the end of the series, I also think Luffy wants to share not just a feast or his experiences with others, but this unrestrained sense of freedom as well. In chapter 1018, Who's Who told us how people jailed would pray to someone known as the sun god Nika for salvation. This god or divine figure maybe was the hero of oppressed peoples, believed by slaves during ancient times to be a legendary warrior, someone that would come and save them from their lifelong servitude. I had mentioned in my own review that we shouldn't just limit this to slaves in the typical sense, and so yes, Who's Who might have been a prisoner, or forced into servitude in either the slave camps of Mirjawa, the Tequila Wolf Bridge we saw Robin sent to near the end of Pre-Time Skip, or Impel Down, which is the most common idea, where the conditions of Impel Down are clearly akin to slavery. This would affirm some belief out there that some prisons in the modern world operate on the pretext of slave labor. But it was said the sun god Nika would bring laughter to the lips of the oppressed, of slaves and other downtrodden people, and free them from their suffering. But it is still a mystery as to whether or not Nika really existed. A comparison is then drawn to the fishmen, who have their own history of slavery under the celestial dragons, and it's possible they refer to this figure Nika as Joy Boy, by a different name. The very Joy Boy from the encyclopedia that might have given Oda the idea for this character, which is so common among cultures or religions across the world, where people have different names for the same or similar figures and events, stories that pass word of mouth from one person to another, from one land to the next, adapted to fit different environments, religions, and customs. In Skypiea we have the sun god, or the god of the sun, referenced over and over again. We then have Luffy by the end of the battle take down a false god, who ironically might not have realized Luffy fit the mythos of a real god all along. Prophecy fulfilled in that moment, as Luffy yells out for the light to shine, and the dream of those waiting down below to be realized. Tears brought to their eyes and a smile to their face. Fishman Island also worships the sun, it would seem. There is a sacred sun tree whose roots shine with the light of the sun above. The blessing of the sun is said by King Neptune to allow the fishmen and all people to go on living. It's interesting how the Straw Hat's ship, the Sunny, is made out of a special or sacred tree as well, a ship whose name is aptly suited for pirates destined to travel towards the sun metaphorically, a brighter tomorrow. More importantly, the end of the Fishman Island arc, the original conflict of the Sun Pirates, whose sun tattoo had covered up their tragic past as slaves to humans, and the bright future I just spoke of. Jinbei gives his blood to Luffy, a human, his soon-to-be captain, and we see the narrator's words rise like the sun as cursed laws and old ways dim with the past. On this journey to overcome hatred and fear, along the senseless path of bloodshed and rage, what matters more than a dream or some wild fantasy is the true road, that which leads towards the sun. In terms of Elbaf, there is supposedly a god there as well. We'll see if this god is similar to the legend of Nika, but every year the people of Elbaf hold a certain traditional festival known as the Winter Solstice. As the name suggests, it is held during the end of the year to pay their gratitude to the sun. I would assume this is to thank the sun, as its light welcomes the spring and consequent summer, and so the return of life, vegetation, and good harvest. Again, the concept of light versus darkness, heat versus cold, Luffy versus Blackbeard maybe. I want to go back now to the panel of Jinbei as he gives his blood. Other fishermen express surprise, maybe even protest, decrying Jinbei's act as a violation of law, and Jinbei says he's a pirate. Pirates don't follow the law. It's almost as if, based on what I was saying earlier, the combination of Shanks and Dragon in Luffy is uniquely positioned to surpass each figure, including his father, which my next video is about, because he's a pirate, to uproot the evil of this world. No law will stand in his way. Like he told Jinbei, he's not a hero, but because of a pure belief in something so simple, in the words of Eren Yeager, because he was born into this world, because of the basic fact that all people yearn for happiness, to live and to be free. These three things, without need of a perfect conclusion to the historical argument that has tested the journey of men for millennium, unite all of mankind. Fisher Tiger, as I mentioned in the script for the next video, freed other slaves because he saw companionship with them as slaves. He saw himself in them, but he still despised them for being human. Luffy, however, sees companionship with others simply because they are alive as well, regardless of their race or background. And so I remember something that Luffy had told Rayleigh about the future and the opponents he will come across for the final end game, saying it depends on what kind of person they are. Still, to this day, a vague and strange conversation. But I think in the context of all of this, an important one. We will have to wait and see. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click that notification bell. As always, there is more to come. Until next time, I'll see you all in Valhalla.
これが私たちの背中のマークと魚人のマークが似ている理由よ。
世界最高の戦争始めようぜ。
お前の相手は俺だ。
にゃ